What is this called again?
Peanut gallery.
Peanut gallery.
Good intro.
All right.
Okay, so this is Sploosh.
Ceramic.
And
boy.
Dan is the guest guest something.
Yo.
We don't do guests very often.
Yeah.
Okay, so this could. I don't think this is rumor. I think everything I'm about to tell you is 100% legit based on what I saw. Basically, the story is some guy. I don't know how many people are on this team, but we're talking about Mass Effect 3. Let's just pretend. What is the team? Maybe you think 6 guys or something.
That are making the game?
Well, the story. No, the story.
The writers.
They're like the writers.
All writers. Yes.
Well, but writers are always a team. Right. So anyway, let's say there's 6 of them.
Yeah.
There's like 6 writers, and then there's the like head director guy, and then he has like some assistant, the director guy. So the story is that one of the team was a big fan of Penny Arcade and likes to type on the forums and stuff. And of course, Mass Effect 3 Ending created a thread on Penny Arcade, which was basically writer bashing. And Mr. Writer got a little defensive and wrote out basically a rant saying, you know, I'm blah blah blah, and I want to clear up something that normally the team would agree on every piece of the game, and every part of Mass Effect 3 except for the ending was made by the team. But for some reason, the head guy, like him and his assistant did the ending purely on their own without even telling practically the team what he was even going to do. And based on and I'm even going to go ahead and just claim the indoctrination theory is true at this point, because I think the way this designer guy was explaining the director, they said the director is like a hyper logical person who can be a little detached from the average Joe and could be the kind of person prone to making an ending that to him seems perfectly logical, but to the average person it might not be very clear.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, when you think about what this guy is saying and you think about the indoctrination theory, it kind of makes sense, because like there's this boy in the beginning and then it's very short and it kind of like a clue and then it goes away.
Yeah.
And then there's like these little dreams thrown into the story seemingly at random moments. And then there's the ending that just blah right on you. First of all, I read this whole thing because, you know, it was deleted, and then theoretically this guy might have even been fired over it because it became another drama because this guy basically ousted his team. I think it makes perfect sense. And when you look at, remember the video, I know you didn't like the guy, but he was the angry guy or whatever, he was showing scenes that he didn't like, and how there's like the scene with the Krogan, and like the Krogan's like, you guys are gonna need a new planet, and the Krogans will welcome you, or something. Like, just, it was a good story. I liked listening to Rex in that scene and stuff. But I think when you take those moments, which are probably obviously built by the team, and then you just throw in this ending that the team wasn't really aware of, it kind of makes sense that there's like these little awkward inconsistencies, and kind of like, why would you bother to say that?
Okay, my question to you is this. When you say that they made the ending, when does that happen in the game? Like, from what point are we talking? The minute you get to the Citadel again, is that the start of the
official
ending?
Yeah, I would say the ending is the minute he walks in that beam.
Okay.
And technically the ending is the boy in the beginning and the dream sequences.
But buying into the indoctrination, the boy's not there. Yeah. Like, that's just the whole Reaper.
But that's the point. It's like this guy, the owner, the director, or whatever.
Casey Hudson. He's the director.
I don't know him, but yeah. Okay, so Casey, it's like, okay, if you're making an ending, you're not including anyone in it, and you have to put it in your game.
But are they doing this for creative purposes or secrecy? Do they not want it to leak out?
It's possible, both. I think it could be ego a little bit. I mean, these guys are what, like probably millionaires now, right?
Oh, yeah.
But doesn't it make sense that if you weren't telling the team about this ending, it's almost like the points of the indoctrination theory that were snuck in. It almost, if you took them out of the game completely, you almost wouldn't notice. In a weird way, like, didn't have anything to do with what was happening to Shepard. It was like you took the game and like folded it open and then just plopped that scene in, and then you played the game, and then he just picked a moment in the middle of the game and kind of like stretched it and plopped the dream sequence. So anyway, the reason I even bring this up is because I'm reading this press release, and he says, so there you have it, we like are proud of the game we made and the team that made it. Hell yes. It's like he's trying to say, I back my team, because you know, like as a boss, right? You want to give an attaboy to your team. I don't know. It's almost like a guilt sentence. Like you didn't need to say that here. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's out of place in the thing.
Yes, it's out of place. Like he wrote all this. This is a lot of information, and then all of a sudden at the end he's like, "Oh, by the way, we the team, and we're very proud, and hell yes, we're proud of what was done." But knowing that potentially the team had nothing to do with the ending, it's kind of like, what, you know? So anyway, it's just a tangent. It's not even the point here.
How much is that from pressure he's getting from his team? How does the team feel about
Right, well, maybe he feels it in an unsaid pressure to sort of say sorry. Like, because he made all these guys look bad who did such a good job for like...
If he went and did the ending by himself, the team may feel, well, you don't trust us? Is that why you went and decided to do this? You don't trust what we're doing? You don't like our vision?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine how you'd even say to these guys, yo, I hope it's cool if I make the ending. Like, I don't know, it just seems so out of place. You would think they'd want to be a part of it or something. I don't know.
And apparently this ending is different from the ending they had planned.
I don't know that they had an ending planned. That's
what
the thing.
was that ending?
It had something to do with the dark matter.
Really? So this is a true story?
When the demo leaked early, the original Mass Effect 3
I never
demo,
seen Matt told me this, but
I'm trying to find this information.
I remember reading something about dark matter. Because that was a big thing in Mass Effect 2.
I feel like I heard the word dark matter too.
Haystrom, Mass Effect 2.
Energy.
Dark energy, rather. Haystrom, Mass Effect 2, when you meet the Quarians, they're talking about how the dark energy coming from the sun is expanding the planet, the sun, bigger than it should be.
Right.
And they were sent to investigate.
Okay.
That was supposed to have a bigger role in Mass Effect 3 because the demo leaked early. People hacked the demo and got the script, pretty much.
Wow. But I don't. So you don't know more than that, though.
Don't know much more.
I mean, and that expanding sun maybe was part of the story, and they just went with nothing. You know how, like, the illusionary man, he's always near that big sun. Like, maybe there was a whole story there. Like, why was he at the big sun? What was in the big sun?
That sun changes color at the end of Mass Effect 2.
Well, that just depends.
Depends on what your decision is, but it changes color.
But it's still the same color when you get there in Mass Effect 3, regardless.
Which means they changed their mind on something.
Possible.
Huh.
I don't think it's the actual sun that's changed the color. I just think it's the.
It's just supposed to be a symbol.
I just think it's the windows in the Elusive Man's office there. It's just.
Doesn't matter at this point, anyway. But it makes you. Doesn't it? Wouldn't it be really cool if you could get like an interview with one of these guys? Maybe he quits like 2 years later, and.
It's kind of funny that when movies come out, that they do all these interviews and stuff with like the creators and stuff, and they do all these hardcore interviews, and then you have this game which, for better or worse, has changed the game industry and how games are made. No one's doing interviews.
I'm probably.
And now we have to like read a press release, but I don't think there's a proper outlet for them to do interviews. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a movie or something, you go on like talk shows and Jay Leno and stuff. Like, what? The Casey Hudson's gonna go on Jay Leno and talk about Mass Effect to the people who are watching Leno?
Yeah.
Like, there's no real outlet for these people to talk.
Well, come on. There's like G4 and random stuff. I guarantee, dude.
But you know what I mean.
I guarantee you could get any random dude and like someone from Machinima do an interview on YouTube and the thing would go viral so fast.
But I think it caters to your point. This guy's a little
I think
overly creative.
There's probably some tension with the team, and they just don't want anyone talking. That's got to be what it is. And then this leader guy's kind of like, well, I don't want people questioning my decisions, and I don't want to get into the drama of it, so we'll just go radio silent. Also, acknowledging there's a problem only could make it worse, really. I don't see, because I don't think anything they're going to say is going to change anyone's mind, so it's kind of like, well, let's just not bother acknowledging it. It's damage control.
I think that the lack of information coming out of them hints that there's just so much more content, whether it be another game or more DLC down the road. Because if they came on and just said, this is the end of Mass Effect, this is what we're going to do. We're not dealing with Mass Effect, this trilogy anymore. Here you go. But the fact that they're just still quiet...
Could it be, based on what you're saying, that the cutscenes we're going to get in this DLC are actually the next game, or the DLC they were planning on doing, like, let's say 6 months from now?
That's what I said.
So they just chop it, and they're like, you know what, we'll give them this for free. It will silence everyone, and then we can move along with what we really want to do all the time, all along.
I think that they wanted to create this quasi-persistent universe, almost like an MMO with this multiplayer. I feel like the multiplayer that we play now is quote-unquote real-time in the Mass Effect world. Like, we've beaten the game, right? So, the war's still going on, because the Reapers haven't been defeated, judging by... Because if you go by the endings that we've been given in the game, there's no real ending.
Alright, I think I also get you now.
But you know what I'm saying?
I do. Like, if you cut off all the universes, you actually got little battles in every universe now.
That's what we play in the multiplayer.
Makes sense, actually. And then you can make like a persistent universe, but no one's really connected to anyone anymore.
Right.
But you can remember when they used to be.
So there is a bigger picture, but there's too much like secrecy because of what they're trying to do. And I get it, but it sucks.
And people are so used to being massive, I was going to say global, but that's not a big enough word for what they did.
I know.
They want to go
galactic.
Galactic? Yeah, there you go. And then they want to bring us back to like universe, and it's like not big enough or something.
I just think that had they not acknowledged that this was the last Mass Effect game, and it just said to be continued at the end of this game, like if we knew Mass Effect 4 existed and another game was coming, this ending would just be a cliffhanger.
Yeah. I think it'd be too much of a downer, though. I like the idea that Rex could go back to his planet and like have his Morden son or something, and then have a story about Morden and involve a whole story. Like, I feel like
right, but that's based.
They sliced too much. Like, they messed with it too much. They killed the stupid Reapers. Go back. Everyone goes back to the way they lived, and then cut like 1,000 years ahead. That's a good story. Why did they have to destroy the relays? It's too much. Like, I don't like it. I just don't.
Well, I don't think the
relays aren't gone.
No,
they can't be gone.
Who's not gone?
The relays, they're not gone. As me and Matt would told you.
Yeah.
In the Arrival DLC, you smashed a rock into it and you killed all life in that solar system. So effectively, if this ending is true and they destroyed all the relays,
I think that's
gone.
No, but I think there's a poor argument because you just threw a rock into a relay, but that doesn't mean that the Reapers didn't create an off switch. It's possible that they could invent the anti-relay, decomposition thing or something.
Push button in case of emergency.
If you go with the indoctrination theory, Shepard gasping for air at the end, none of that had happened. So Joker and Edie on that planet, they're not there. They're still above Earth, in the Normandy. The relays still exist. Basically, what the ending has done is you're Shepard on that last run down to that beam. You get hit with that beam from Harbinger. The rest from that point on is in Shepard's head. None of it actually exists in real life. Then you beat the credits roll, whatever, it pans back, Shepard's gasping for air. The time between him getting hit by the laser and the gasp for air, we don't know. So it could be an hour, it could be 4 hours.
Yeah. And that's for
the DLC that they had planned, I bet would probably pick up there, and then that would be the real definitive ending.
But in that the whole thing about how red is really blue and blue's really red, like, I find that really irritating.
Well, let's put it this way.
I'm going to have to go back and beat my game again, because I'm not happy.
This before, when I was looking at that ending, and it shows blue, it shows the Elusive Man going control. I'm sitting on, the Elusive Man's been the bad guy for the whole series. Why anything he doing considered the paragon or the good option? And yet Anderson, who's been this bastion of goodness for the whole thing, is the evil option now. I'm holding up quotes here.
Yeah.
That just didn't make sense.
Well, right, at the time it didn't.
Yeah, at the time it did.
Now you know what the theory is.
Yeah, and at the time it was.
It makes sense.
I'm just bitter. I'm gonna have to go back and play it all over again because when I got to that ending, it was like 4:30 in the morning, and I had to work in like a couple hours.
Weren't you talking to me at that time
and
too?
I didn't even know what side was blue and red. I was too tired, and I wasn't looking in the right spots. I was freaking out. Yeah. The whole time the ending was going on because I was so lost.
And you knew the ending was not.
I literally am going to have to play the entire. I'm probably just going to go back and get more war assets or whatever first because I think I have like 4,700.
Well, didn't you promote things?
I did.
For that weekend?
Well, that boosted me.
That weekend where we were supposed to promote things?
I did do it.
Yeah, nobody got their boxes.
So that gives me points?
Yes, every time you promote a class, you get 75 points towards your war assets.
No, I only did it twice.
So you got 150.
So I'll have to go do some random mission, save some random dude.
Or just randomly scan things.
But, no, getting back to this DLC, right? I think it always existed. It was always coming. Because of how long it takes to make this shit. Dude, how long ago did we know about this DLC that we're getting on Tuesday? We knew we were getting all these characters, what?
Yep.
A day after the thing came out? And they just announced it, officially announced it yesterday?
It was a screenshot.
So they're gonna whip up this thing in a matter of weeks?
Yeah. And usually when a game comes out, they let everyone go on vacation for like 2 weeks. So
this already existed. They're polishing it.
I don't know. So what does that make you think, though? Like, you know how...
It's not the end.
No.
Regardless of what they've said.
No, we've discussed it, and I'm agreeing in everything you said, but does this all stop the feelings? I mean, I've never seen forums so alive since... This is the first for me, that I could go online right now and probably... Some dude who just beat the game yesterday, and he's just ranting and raving about how bad it is.
Me and Matt
This is a new experience.
And we both agree. They could have stopped a lot of it if they just said something earlier. If they announced Mass Effect 4, if they announced that the story is continuing on in DLC, don't freak out.
Well, even look at Mass Effect 2. Every time you play Mass Effect 2, there are 3 or 4 instances where it says, bring your character to Mass Effect 3. They didn't even announce Mass Effect 3 yet.
They even said, at the end of Mass Effect 3, we're going to keep our character.
Really?
They said, he goes, well, we're not getting rid of our save character.
Right.
It was on a Twitter feed, I believe.
Yeah.
They tried to be cute with the ending. You can't assume that everyone's going to get what you're trying to say.
It's like I said, though, it's not even that. It's not even what happened. I felt victimized during that ending. Because the whole time that Shepard's talking to the two dudes, and then he goes up in the elevator and he's talking to this boy. Yeah. My brain is just like, what is going on? What? I didn't feel confident in what I'm clicking. I didn't feel like I had any clue what anyone was talking about.
I kind of felt wrong that I had to go to an outside video to figure out the ending.
Exactly.
I had to go to that video on YouTube about the Indoctrination. I'm sitting going, you're telling me this at the end of... When you first came out with this series, you told me, it's a trilogy. Your decisions will matter, and at the end, it will be the end. And I didn't feel at the end it was, like, just didn't feel right.
I can't just be me. That when I made my choice, I literally had zero clue what choice I made, what the consequences of that choice would be, and the game wouldn't even let me go back. Like, it disabled save and load.
Yep.
And I kind of get why, but... I was like, I felt victimized by the ending. Like, I was freaking out. It's the most important decision of the entire 3 games, and I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah,
Okay, did I just jump in for a second?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I said in the previous video that I accepted my Shepard's fate. I knew he was going to die. And I agree with you how ambiguous it was at that point as to what you were supposed to decide. Why is it that when I made my choice and beat the game, I said to myself, hey, I can't wait to play this again and, find out stuff that I missed and help clarify this ending. Why does everyone just immediately react in a hostile manner and run to the internet? Is it the fact that they don't want to play it again? But you've just sunk 40 hours. Like, I don't get it. Why?
It's ambiguous.
Right, so then... So what happens if you watch a movie you don't understand? You go back and watch it again.
No, people will complain on the internet these days.
Because there's a bigger outlet for that. Everyone has a phone.
I think the thing is that it's even worse now because people have already beaten the game and maybe you haven't yet. So you're hearing all the rumors. I think the instinct nowadays is to jump on the internet and see what everyone else thinks, and then I was hoping maybe that would encourage me to go back, but it's a question that's kind of fixed for me, because when I played the game, I never ever went backwards in time. Every decision I made for my character, I went with it. So based on my pre-made rules, I never wanted to go back. But that's why I felt victimized, because like
I've thought about
it was the only time.
If this is reacting to BioWare as a whole. Because since recently, last few years, BioWare has stepped up and been EA's main. They are the big producer. Yeah. And let's see, you've had Dragon Age 2, which they didn't really like. Nope, the fans didn't like. BioWare has a very central fan base.
What?
I liked it.
You liked it?
He liked it.
I liked it.
I feel like I've heard that though, Dan. Am I wrong that people call Dragon Age 2 like the worst game ever?
I'll put it to you this way. You go to the same zones pretty much. It's a 10-year cycle, the game. You go to like the same zones, it's different years. And you go into caves.
Yeah, we have a banshee.
That cave is part of this giant cave system that's in that zone that you go into that cave like 15 times. But you go into different parts of the cave.
Counter argument. What was the first Mass Effect?
Same thing.
Exactly. What is that? Oh, it was one of the greatest games ever made. They do it again with a Lord of the Rings type RPG, and it's worst game ever made. So then why is it going to the same, pretty much the same building over and over again? And Mass Effect 1 works.
Well, come on. It's not fair to say Mass Effect 1 worked. There's people who hate the crap out of that game.
It wouldn't have spawned 2 more games if it sucked.
Well, I liked it.
We wouldn't be having this discussion if it sucked.
I like to bring up the example of 2 Human. That was supposed to be like a trilogy, wasn't it? Advent Rising, that was supposed to be a trilogy, wasn't it?
I enjoyed.
Terrible.
I enjoyed Mass Effect 1 not that much. I was encouraged. The story, I never heard it, so it was cool and all. And I feel like Mass Effect 1 was more a good story in my head than what I was actually playing. Like, because something would happen in Mass Effect 1, and then my imagination would start exploding. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it put me in a world I've never been in before, and it started making my imagination go crazy. But if I went back and played it now, I think I would be bored out of my mind.
Well, Mass Effect 1, there is a lot of downtime. Like, there's a lot of times where you're just doing nothing.
A lot of elevators. Oh my lord, the elevators.
Whether it be the elevators or it's just so slow. Like, they made everything huge for the sake of hugeness. And you have to walk to these places. And granted, there are there's fast travel at the Citadel, but even like walking from the fast travel to these shops or whatever, it's just, like, your character just doesn't move fast enough.
I don't know, I had a lot of feelings and thoughts before we started recording right now that I feel like I'm kind of settled with now. Only because of what I think's going to happen. But I just want to say that, like, my fear is that every time there's been some kind of universe that I get excited about, I feel like I always get let down in the end. So
this doesn't live up to your potential.
Is it because your expectations?
If anyone listening, I remember Matrix 2 came out, and all of us sitting in rooms for days talking about what 3 would be, and then 3 came out, and then it's like, it wasn't very good, or I don't like that ending at all.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, Star Wars. I mean, like 10 years or more between them, and thinking all that time, like, what's the next Star Wars gonna be like? What's the Clone Wars gonna be like? I don't know. Is there another example? It doesn't matter really. But the point is, every time I get hyper excited for something, I'm pretty much always let down. My imagination always carries me further, and I don't like the excuse that your imagination is always going to be better. I mean, these guys are artists. Like, that's like saying if I imagine a painting and then you paint it, that you somehow can't paint something better than what I imagined. That seems ridiculous, considering I'm not an artist. You know.
It's a tough spot they're in because they have to go with their artistic integrity, but also make money. Yeah. So they have to sell to an audience.
In the end, they say it's about.
So sacrifices will be made.
In the end,
they've tried their best, given this universe, where you can cater your character to the universe as best as they can.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only so much you can do.
Like they said, it's artistic integrity, but in the end, they're making a consumer product, and you got to keep those people happy, or you won't be making that product for very long.
It's hard for me because we're just guessing on what they're going to do next, but
you can go on.
They could have just gone with the fairy tale ending and then created the universe. I mean, you could do so much. You could just say 2,000 years later, and it's still the universe that everyone loves, but it's 2,000 years later, and a lot of things can happen in 2,000 years.
I just don't think we're there yet in this game.
Or maybe they will say 2,000 years later, but they haven't even got that far yet. It's a lot easier to do what I just said and not have the people all confused at the end, and not try to be too smart at the end, and just produce something that will make people feel warm and fuzzy. That's what the people want.
This just dawned on me, is the whole Stargazer at the end of the game their way of saying to be continued? When the kid says, tell me another Shepard story.
One more story.
Is that their way of saying to be continued without actually saying to be continued?
Possible. Do you know who's plays the Stargazer?
Buzz Aldrin.
Yeah.
That's pretty smart, and I've never heard anyone say that before.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Maybe people have been
rather than just saying on the text "to be continued," the kid says, "Tell me another story." All right, here's your DLC.
Wow, that's a good point. And then the end of the DLC would be the boy again. That was a good story, Dad. And then it's like an attaboy. It's like a video game high five.
That again goes back to the. Well, why didn't you just say that? You could have saved yourself a lot of trouble.
Because it makes you feel cooler when you do it smart and artistic. You know?
Oh yeah, I'm sure this makes them feel real cool. Oh, this is.
Yeah, but there's also something to be said when you just dumb it down for a mass audience, like at the base level.
Yeah, you don't want to, but you still have to keep it at least somewhat simple.
I mean, that could have just been a.
It could have been the happy fairy tale ending, like Doug said.
You know, the newspaper's written at a 4th grade level, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But most people who read the newspaper are probably college graduates. There's a reason.
Do you remember when we went to school, the old math phrase, KISS, keep it simple, stupid?
Yeah. I mean, no, I actually think, see, here's the thing, Matt, this is what sucks about life. I think what you said is brilliant. But I didn't get it at that moment, and therefore I was lost in my entertainment value. It doesn't matter that I enjoyed it right now. It's like a month later. You've already been burned. So,
yeah. He kind of went a roundabout way of it.
The thing is, I have kids, and they always want one more story, so I just assume it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that could be. That could also be like the fairy tale of Shepard is 10 feet tall and shoots laser beams from his eyes.
I mean, no matter how many stories you tell a kid, they always want one more story. My Shepard just jumped into a ball of fire, so I wasn't really at the Shepard's coming back to life.
Because they say that first, and then it pans over the breath, right?
Yes, after the Stargazer scene takes place before the body. Yes.
So if your Shepard lives, one more story.
Yeah. And it's obvious he's on Earth because if he...
See, I wasn't burned because I'm just Mass Effect super fan, and I enjoy playing those games and being in that universe, and I knew we were going to get more content. So I wasn't that burned. I won't lie to you, I was totally close as to what I was doing at the end of that game. But I knew I had, like, 12 other Shepards to play through, so I'm like, alright, I'll just pick up more information on my next playthrough.
But most people, after that feeling you had, just went online and started pitching.
Yes, I think a lot of people...
But I don't think that's wrong of them.
Look, I'm gonna piss a lot of people off by saying this, but how many of those people are just kids trying to, like, defend their parents' $60? Yeah. All three of us work for a living and have money that we spent ourselves.
Yep.
These kids are complaining about a gift that didn't live up to their expectations on a message board, like passing it off like they flushed money down the toilet.
Yeah, you know, we've only talked about Shepard, but I felt like my characters, I was attached to them. And I felt like the ending killed all my friends, you know? I've spent how many hours? Like 90 to 100 hours fighting for these people, and then in one 5-minute ending, all of a sudden...
That's it?
And you're in a weird group because you played all three in less than a month.
Yeah, so they weren't like distant friends.
We're 5 years into this horse shit.
Yeah, well, I could see where that'd be worse, because
I
don't think George Lucas will get a pass in my book ever.
George Lucas needs to step away from Star Wars. We've had that discussion.
I actually think the problem with the world is, and I tweeted this randomly, was that any person who has yes men in their life, they just turn into crap. Like, no one was ever saying no to Lucas. It's so obvious.
Yeah.
And no one ever said no to Whitney Houston or Michael Jackson. And they're both dead.
Yep.
Well, I think the kids said no to Michael Jackson, but that's a different
Oh!
We should probably end it on that note.